When life gets unpredictable, preparation matters. In medicine, it's all about staying alert, ready for whatever comes through the door. On the road, it's no different. That's why Volvo designs vehicles to help anticipate risk, reduce harm, and protect lives. The Volvo XC90's advanced safety systems inspire confident decisions wherever the road takes you. The Volvo XC90, for life. Proud sponsor of the Pit Podcast. Learn more at volvocars.ca/safety.
All right, welcome back to the Elias Makos Show. There's a new piece out in The Atlantic. It is called The Anti-Social Century. It takes a look at how people are spending more time alone than ever. We've invited Mitch Joel onto the program, our tech investor, advisor, author of Control-Alt-Delete, founder of ThinkersOne, onto the program to discuss that and more. Hi, Mitch. Welcome to the show.
Good morning, Elias. Always good to talk to you.
So this piece, I want to tell our listeners, and I'll direct all of them to go and seek it out, The Anti-Social Century. It starts off with the author talking about a local restaurant, and they go to eat at the local restaurant, and the place is empty, but business is booming because on the counter is brown paper bag after brown paper bag of the takeout orders. So people are going in, they're getting their food, they're going back home, they're not eating around other people. And I said, oh boy, I've seen this. I've gone to that restaurant. So I wonder, Mitch, I think you're very interested in what's going on here. Why don't you tell us more?
Well, I'll tell you, it's funny. I was reading the article and then I had a problem with my Apple Pencil. And so I made a reservation last week at the Genius Bar. Went down and realized I was early. Got there early, thought across the street, shawarma's, great restaurant. I'm going to go in. It's about 11:30 in the morning. I'm going to have my lunch now. And I walked in, desolate. I'm all alone. I order my meal. I sit down. I'm waiting for it. And as the clock clicked into 11:30 and they turned on the orders, if I tell you, I couldn't sit there and eat because all I heard was that sound that comes in when it's an Uber Eats or
yes.
It was just bing, 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 it sounded like an alarm was going off in the restaurant. And similarly, I had an experience on this past vacation where I was down in Florida. And one of the restaurants we frequent for lunch has opted out of not doing any of these Uber Eats. This is a place, Les, if I told you to call in for a takeout, it would take minutes and minutes and minutes. Sometimes they never answer. I have to walk across packed lineups. You can never get in.
Yeah.
I wouldn't say empty, very busy, but not the same. And one of the waitresses was telling me that because they don't engage in Uber Eats, they're no longer in favor of the customers, and they've kind of lost a little bit of popularity because people don't think about them anymore. Why? Because people want to come in, take their food, or have it ordered and eat alone, which is a big part of this antisocial sentiment.
And that's it. You're going to be eating alone at home. You're ordering from one. You're not meeting a friend. Hey, let's go out and grab a bite together. You're eating that meal alone. Now, as we look at the stats here, Mitch, demographic breakdowns, you compare 20 years ago versus today. It's staggering, especially what's happening with 15 to 24-year-olds. What do you think? What do you think that leads to? If young adults, teens, young adults are no longer spending time with each other?
Well, we're seeing a lot of things, and I want to be really careful that we have to always caution against what was and what we think is right versus just future generations and how they're going to operate. But there's something, there was a quote in the article that he talked about how emotional intercourse with an immaterial entity is not really a viable future for these young people. This idea that if everything they're interacting with is digital, whether it's even their friends, like if your friendship with somebody is essentially blue dots, ... and not something where you get together, you go and do things, we do see this destruction, if you will, of relationships and what relationships mean. We've seen, you and I've talked about this, how emboldened people feel to say whatever they want online, things they wouldn't typically say in front of somebody else's. Now, we also know through COVID that we had so many kids lacking in that time zone, the social skills that they need, and what that's done to their academic performance and their ability to even look in your eyes and communicate, skills that we take for granted. And so what we're seeing is this move towards almost a homebound person. And obviously that's got real massive implications for our societies and our communities.
So what are the implications? And the time spent at home, staggering. And of course the pandemic was a big part of that. And the recovery from that has been unbelievably slow. So what are the ramifications for society?
Well, look, we now know that we can shop, work, worship, and do our exercise without leaving our home. You tell me what that means for society. I mean, these are massive shifts in our behavior. Yeah. Now, by the way, it's not just because of the phone. I mean, what was really interesting in this article, and I think it's worth everybody taking a read of it, is this goes back to cars. When cars became affordable and people started buying cars, what happened? We had urban sprawl. What does urban sprawl mean? Well, we're further and further apart from each other. We build pools, we build dens, we do things in our own home because it's harder and harder to move apart. When I was in Florida, you see a lot of the experience happens in the strip mall, not even the shopping mall. And so what does that mean? Most people have to get on a highway to go somewhere in Florida if they're not in a gated community, which is, by the way, very different than Montreal. You look at Montreal, the restaurants here are still packed. You went last night to see Jerry Seinfeld and Gaffigan. Sure, it was busy and sold out. People in Montreal have a joie de vivre. We have because of the nature of the city, we are more inclined to want to do things socially. TVs, this was a huge problem. People were suddenly spending time that was spent at the bowling alley at the library on their TV. But computers is obviously a tectonic shift in how we do this. And by the way, we're not even talking about AI and chatbots and things that actually sound like you're speaking to a human that's either here or right around the corner.
That voice you're hearing, it's Mitch Joel, tech and investor and advisor. We're talking about the quote-unquote anti-social century that perhaps we're going through. Mitch, though, I spoke to a restaurateur from the Quartier Latin last week, and business has never been worse. Right. For him, it's empty. Now, of course, it could be that part of town. I know there's so many other things, but, for every place that is packed, we are seeing that things that were busier before aren't as busy. I think parents would tell you that their kids don't go and hang out at the mall like they did 25 years ago. And they're in the basement and they're looking at their screen. So I'm looking to that as well, Mitch. And what happens if a generation doesn't spend time, messing around with their friends in real life, and instead they spend it looking at a screen?
You see what happens. We become divided. We think that we are in a good place because we feel somewhat connected because we're seeing things in the culture, but we're actually not really communicating or engaging with it in our, I call our protein-based forms. It's a huge factor of this. And we have to just understand that only we can make these choices. You even have in the article, it's fascinating, these interior designers and builders talking about how they're building places built on Netflix and chill. The fact that every room needs to have a flat screen, every place needs to be connected. They're talking about young people as these secular monks. Instead of being focused on finding a relationship, building a family, moving things forward, they're focused on their personal body, how good they look. They're focused on their bank account, important, and they're also focused on meditation. Now, all of this is good, but again, in a world where all this can happen within the four walls of your home, and people are pushing more and more towards that, what does that do to your mental health? What does that do to your sense of community?
Should we do anything about it? I mean, and when I say we, I know a whole bunch of places have begun to ban smartphones from schools, let's say.
Yeah.
Do we take this really seriously as a societal problem? And how heavy-handed can we get? I mean, at a certain point, you have to believe, people are allowed to decide for themselves how lonely they want to be.
Yes and no. I think on one hand, we know that there's been a divestment in public spaces. And I mean internal ones, whether it's swimming pools, whether it's libraries or whatever it might be. So I do believe, and we do know that if you build it, they do come. When we build great spaces, when we build spaces for young people to do things other than be on their phones, a swimming pool, a baseball field, a hockey arena, they are busy. So we have to continually invest in that. And yes, on the other side, we have to encourage young people to understand that you need rituals that aren't 6 hours on YouTube or TikTok, rituals that are, I'm going to meet my friends for breakfast. We're going to go out for a bike ride. We're going to go and do these things. So we do know that that is a strategy. The other thing we can do, which is much harder for young people, is something they called in the book, I love this word, a mystics, which is based off of the Amish. The idea that it's a practice of carefully selecting which tech you accept versus not accept. And it's an idea from Neil Stephenson, the science fiction writer. But this idea that you can make choices. You can make choices for your long-term health over the immediate instant gratification. Can't expect this from kids, but we can expect this from our governments, our leaders, and our co-parents.
Mitch, you're going to have to leave it there. I want to thank you so much. It's always fun to talk about societal issues with you, and I hope your Apple Pencil is working properly.
All good. Thanks, Elias. Have a great day.